Let's talk about anxiety. Now, you've probably heard me say before that I hate the word anxiety. I think we use it way too often, and we use it for things that it isn't even intended to describe. It totally baffles me that people like to use the word and apply it to themselves. They say I have anxiety as if it's some sort of a security blanket to wrap around them. There are some situations, however, in which anxiety might be the right word, but there could even be a better word. So today we're going to talk about specific fears. Now, I like to call it a fear more than I like to call it an anxiety or a phobia, because that fear is a word that we know from the time we're very little. It has a meaning to us and our body recognizes it. So let's get ready to do some tapping on specific fear. Now remember that you are responsible for your own health and well-being, and that by tapping along you're agreeing to the terms that can be found at www.drleannamanuel.com/disclaimer. So let's pick a fear. I'm going to go with fear of spiders for you because it's one that I've tapped on before for myself and for others, and I know it pretty well. Now, you can tap along using exactly the same words. You don't have to change them, and you get what's called borrowing benefits because your subconscious mind will change it really to whatever it is that you're afraid of. So don't be concerned about using my words, or if you'd feel more comfortable, you can put in the word for whatever it is you fear and substitute it for spiders. Now, when we're tapping about specific fears, there's a lot of ways we can go with it. We can tap thinking and focusing about a specific object, a place, a situation, or an experience. We can tap about a specific event with the thing that we're afraid of. We can tap about the physical sensations that come up when we're faced with the feared object. And we can talk or tap about different parts associated. We call those aspects. And as we tap about the spider fear, I'll try to point out those aspects as we go along. So I'm going to start at my karate chop point. Even though I have this fear of spiders, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though I have this fear of spiders, and I've always had it, I choose to believe that I can be okay. Even though I have this fear of spiders, I love and accept myself completely, with or without the fear. Eyebrow. This fear of spiders. Side of eye. This fear of spiders. Under the eye. This fear of spiders. Under the nose. This fear of spiders. Chin. This fear of spiders. Collarbone. This fear of spiders. Under the arm. This fear of spiders. Top of the head. This fear of spiders. Now, before we started, I didn't rate the intensity of my fear because I've tapped on this a lot and I'm not feeling it at the moment. But after going a round or two, if I was tapping on a new fear that I hadn't already dealt with, I would rate the intensity again to see where it's going. Let's assume for a minute that I started at a 9 or 10, and after tapping a round or two, I was down to a 5 or 6. Then I might change and start tapping like this. This remaining fear of spiders. Some of this fear of spiders that's left. I still have some fear of spiders. This remaining fear of spiders. My remaining spider fear. This remaining fear of spiders. I still have some fear of spiders. remaining fear of spiders. Now the spider's not here with me, so I expect that my intensity would keep going way down. But what if I introduced a picture of a spider and I'm looking at that? My intensity might go back up because there's something visually that's a trigger for that fear. So next I might look at the spider, if you have a real one, use it, but the picture, and really tap while I'm looking at it and noticing everything about that spider. And its hairy legs, and its creepy hairy body, and its eyes, and the way it moves. How ugly it is. And I would tap until my intensity was back down to a pretty low level. Then, if it's still not gone, I might tap about the physical feeling I get. For me, when I see a spider, it is in my gut. It's definitely in my gut. It's a tightening. So this tightening when I see a spider, the gut tightening, I feel it clench. This gut tightening. Whenever I see a spider, my gut just is in knots. This gut tightening when I see a spider. My gut tightens when I see a spider. This gut tightening when I see a spider. And I take a deep breath and let it out. For me, one of the things that happened when I started tapping on spiders was I had this flood of a memory about spiders from when I was a very little girl. It had to be before I was 9, but it was probably much younger than that. And I was on a swing set, and I didn't want to come in. My aunt was babysitting me, and she wanted me to go in the house. So she told me a story about a big spider, and it was coming to get me. And that's the earliest memory I have of being afraid of a spider, was that story she told me to get me to go in the house. So to really clear up this fear of spiders, I had to tap on that specific incident from my past. But I had to do some of this other general tapping in order to get there and to find that memory from where this started. So I could start at my karate chop point. Say, even though my aunt told me that horrible story that scared me when I was a child, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though my aunt scared me to death with that spider story when I was little, I forgive myself for believing it, and I forgive her for telling it. Even though a childhood story started this whole problem with fear of spiders, I deeply and completely love and accept all of me. She told me a story to try to get me to do what she wanted me to do. It worked. I went inside. I did what she wanted me to do. That fear controlled me. And it's lasted my whole life. This fear of spiders that started in childhood. From nothing more than a manipulative story. This fear of spiders that causes my gut to clench. Makes me feel helpless. Makes me feel out of control. Because when I was a child, I was helpless to some extent. And in that situation, I definitely wasn't in control. She controlled me using fear. And in this case, it was a fear of spiders. She told me they were going to attack. Spiders don't attack. She told me it was going to hurt me. There wasn't even really a spider there to hurt me. It was a made-up story that affected my child's mind. My childish feeling. My childlike fear. It no longer serves a purpose for me, and I can let it go. I choose to be calm in the face of spiders. I may never like them, but I don't have to be afraid. And I certainly don't have to be afraid of spiders that aren't even really there. I can judge each situation based on the situation. Things that happened to me when I was a child don't have to control me now. I choose to release this fear of spiders. I choose to release it now. And I choose to release it for the future. From my gut, from my brain, from my cells, and from my energy system. I let go of this fear of spiders. Taking a deep breath and letting it out. When I actually did this work, I also did it while I was looking at real live spiders, and I found out that there were some other factors, aspects that I mentioned earlier that I needed to tap on. One of them was the spider dropping down, that thing it does, because I had done a lot of tapping and I had come to appreciate the spider, never like them, but when the spider dropped down, it caused a real rise in intensity for me. So I had to tap specifically about the feeling, and again it was in my gut, when the spider drops down. So I would just start tapping. Well, I did just start tapping, and the spider tapped falling down, dropping down. It might drop down on top of me. I wouldn't like that. Too much of a surprise. It's creepy when they drop down like that, and so on. So if you think that you've got something managed that's a specific fear, but then you face a piece of it that causes it to rise, it doesn't mean that the first tapping didn't work. It just means that there's a little bit more that has to be managed. So feel free to use this technique on your own fears, and let's call them fears. Until next time, happy tapping.